Narendra, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us on this global energy outlook. Let's kick off with the easy question or the big question, but how will geopolitical factors such as the new Trump administration and more enforceful sanctions on Iran influence India's oil import strategy in 2025? A year we're coming away from 2024. Obviously, Russia featured heavily in India's oil import strategies, lots of availability of their discounted oil. What does the outlook for 2025 look like when you think about India's oil imports intersecting with the new global geopolitical reality? Thank you.
Well, thanks for having me, and Happy New Year to you and to all your viewers around the world.
Thank you.
Interesting question. When we look at from the India's viewpoint, there are broadly speaking four main areas that India is focusing on. Number is one, of course, Trump 2.0, very important. And or should we say Trump, Elon Musk 2.0? We don't know how to look at it. And if you go by the flow of tweets these days, from Elon Musk. Second is, of course, the Middle East, and actually exactly in this order. What happens in the Middle East in terms of Iran, in terms of negotiation with Hamas, and the kind of equation that country like India would like to see, in the region in terms of Israel, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Turkey and Iran, and Turkey and Syria, and Russia and Syria, and so on and so forth. Third is Ukraine, because it's very important that we would like to see in 2025 some kind of breakthrough, hopefully within the first 6 months of Trump. And if something happens there in terms of a kind of a ceasefire, or at least a freeze, that of course would be a very good news for India. Fourth is China, how China goes in terms of the economic slowdown, and also its geopolitical ambition vis-a-vis, particularly the United States and Taiwan. So these are four areas, broadly speaking, very important. But in terms of when we are looking around, it looks like that India will continue to import more oil from Russia. It, of course, depends on the price. But what we have seen, for instance, India's private refiner Reliance entering into a almost like $25 to $30 billion deal to import oil from Rosneft. So that means that they are already talking of a very long-term, roadmap. And maybe other Indian refiners, including state-owned refiners, might go the same way, which means that, economics is doing fine. And the logistics in terms of, shipping that oil from whether the western part of Russia or the eastern part of Russia, that somehow is going to work. That's how it looks like. But if there is a breakthrough on Ukraine and some kind of softening of, sanctions, that will be, of course, a great news. That means that Russia would probably be offering even more discount, and they would probably be importing even more oil from Russia. Number two is, of course, moving to the Middle East. India is keeping very close eyes on what's happening in Iran in particular, and also what's happening in Syria, because Syria has become now a kind of geopolitical junction in the Middle East. What happens, how things are going to unfold in Syria is going to paint the picture as far as India is concerned, what happens in terms of Iran.
When you look at Turkey, that sort of watching posture, what about playing an influential part? India seems to sit on the sidelines, or maybe you're quietly in the back rooms, we don't see it, but these are major events happening in your neck of the woods. You're South Asia, we're West Asia, and yet India doesn't seem to advance with a geopolitical posture here to help solve some of these challenges.
Well, that's a very interesting question. We are a large economy. On PPP today, we are roughly a $12 trillion economy, and a very influential member of BRICS, a number of other intergovernmental and other bodies. But that said, at the same time, our experience is that probably we don't want to get involved in playing brokering peace or bringing parties together, what China has started doing. And we think that we probably want to focus more on what's in our national interest. If you look at the geopolitics, the way it's unfolding, you have got, for instance, the West on the one side, and then China, which has got similar ambition as the West. And I look upon China like the new West. China is the new West. the way they started looking at things with the same ambition, geopolitical ambition to rule the world, to establish a world order which is more China's, center and so on and so forth. So India sees that there is an opportunity when China is busy with what they want to do, and the United States trying to stop them, and West trying to do what West wants to do, and Russia, China, all others trying to stop them. So we find that there is a space in between for India to build its own universe. So instead of basically trying to broker peace or to be on this side and this side, we have to create our own space. And we think we are today economically strong enough to start building our own space, which probably will fructify, let's say, be there for everybody to see in about 20 years from now. So we want to keep quiet. We facilitate, like in Ukraine, we are facilitating, let's say, in Afghanistan with Taliban. Only yesterday in Dubai, our foreign secretary met with the Taliban's, defense minister. So behind the scene, things are happening. As we talk today, there is an Indian delegation in Tehran, and India is also active in Syria. So and at the same time in Moscow and Ukraine. So, but we don't want to do it in a manner which, for instance, raise unnecessary expectation, because when it comes to our bandwidth, diplomatic bandwidth, the global, goodwill bandwidth, we want to use it to build our own universe, to build our own space, while the West is busy with the West, East is busy with what they are. So we think that here is an opportunity, for a lifetime opportunity for India to focus on its own national interest, to create its own sphere, and to build its own.
Well, when
universe.
you think about that, let's say the Iran point, you said you have people in Iran. Would you be supportive of a tighter sanction policy on Iran? The last Trump administration did that. The next one is indicating that it will do the same. That caused a lot of turbulence in the region, a very critical region for India, a very critical source of oil supply for India, containing Iran again. Is that a policy that India would support?
Well, you see, India is a civilizational brother. We have known Iran for centuries. And, so it's a very special country for us. We know them very well. They know us very well. And let's not forget, even the day-to-day language that we speak in places like Delhi, we use 2 to 3% words which are actually Persian by origin. So we have such close relationship with Iran. But at the same time, so we will not be supporting any tightening, of sanctions and so on and so forth. We would like to see some kind of breakthrough. We would like Iran to be mainstream. We would like to be able to import oil from Iran. In fact, we did some parcels just in the last 6 months as an experiment, not directly, but through a spot market. So we would like to see kind of Iran joining the mainstream. But that said, at the same time, we know it very well that Iran at times can be a very difficult customer to deal with, can be a very difficult customer to negotiate with. And we also do not agree with some of their ambitions. For instance, what they try to do in Lebanon or what they try to do in Gaza and all that. We think Iran would be probably doing better if Iran focus more on rebuilding its economy and of course, be an important player given its size, history, and everything. And in India, many of us, including me, we are very worried about what China is doing Iran. It's kind of colonization of Iran that's probably in the process, in Iran when it comes to China. So India is among those countries which are very unhappy with what's going on in Iran. So we would like Iran to build better bridges with the West, with particularly countries like France and Germany, and of course with Russia, but also with Saudi Arabia and Qatar and Turkey and all others. So India is in India's interest to a stable, prosperous, and peaceful Middle East. So that's India's top priority area, and Iran is a very, very important player in the whole thing. And behind the scene, India is always trying to play a role that it can.
I mean, we see India's role, India's activity, and at the same token, we see a very close relationship between the personal relationship of the Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of India, and Donald Trump, the next president of the United States. Is that likely to influence the strategy, maybe import more oil from the US? Like you said previously, that one of the reasons India was looking at giving Russia a greater outlet for other oil than just being dependent on China. India was seeing to keep the Russia from going deep into the China orbit. Will you look to the US, with a strategic viewpoint that maybe take more oil from US because that's very important to Mr. Trump?
Well, to be honest, many in India are happy to see President Trump moving into the White House. India thinks that it's easy to deal with him. People call him transactional. But we think that, that he's a person that's easy to negotiate with, and we can basically kind of go for the whole review of the whole thing. So in India, there is an excitement and enthusiasm, and they're looking forward to, January 20th.
Was
with a
that
lot of
proved to be the
expectation.
case the last time? Did he deliver as expected, that hence the enthusiasm this time?
Well, there were no expectations last time when he moved into the White House, but it
Right.
turned out that he was a good president for India. India found it, our experience was good in dealing with him, and we achieved a lot when he was there. So in terms of so there is kind of enthusiasm, but at the same time, everybody knows he's transactional. Everybody knows that, he's going to ask for his own pound of flesh. We know that. But at the same time,
And what
we
does
think
that look like
know,
for India? What do you think the pound of flesh you'll have to give him?
higher tariffs on Indian software exports. So that, and maybe even products, like we import a lot of petrol and diesel and the products to the United States. So we are waiting for that. But the good news is that, the kind of Biden did a good job, but we thought that, Biden has become a cheerleader of renewable energy, which was not serving our global interest, because India is an oil economy. We're heavily dependent on fossil fuels. We are pushing for renewables better and faster than most developed countries. But that said, at the same time, we need more oil, we need more gas. So Biden kind of being the cheerleader and saying, all right, demonizing oil, that was bad for us. So now when Trump comes in and says, drill, baby, drill, it sounds like a Bollywood song, sweet song to our ears.
Would there be a lot of this sort of dancing that would go with that? There would be a Bollywood shake your booty. Let's go to the survey question.
In a way, yes. In a way, in the sense that means more money going into exploration production worldwide, and that's good for us because we are so heavily dependent on import. Roughly 88% of our requirement is coming from imports. So that way it's good. But the important when it comes to would we be importing more oil from the United States? It all depends on the economics. If Russia continue to offer better economics, then I think it will continue to be Russia number one. But if the American exporters can offer even a better deal, you will also be importing more from them. So it's all about economics. It's not, but the second point, which is very important at the same time, India is very worried about, growing dependence of Russia and China. So we would like basically to be even a closer friend with Russia, simply because we would like to see Russia asserting its strategic autonomy. Russia is a great country, is a great power when it comes, especially energy, the energy that India needs.
So does that translate to mean that you would be generally pleased to see a weaker China that would keep them a little contained and oil prices a little bit lower?
Oh, well, you see, a weaker China is not a bad news for us, because China is creating problem for us everywhere, up in the mountains in Himalayas, through Pakistan, through, Middle East, through Southeast Asia, Laos, Cambodia, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Maldives, Bangladesh, everywhere. So of course, if China gets more busy handling its economy and handling its South China Sea and so forth, that's good for us. In fact, it's important to mention here, the last 6 months, we have seen China changing a little bit. China is reaching out to India in a way, trying to softening, whatever tension we have, especially when it comes to the border. So we are beginning to see a little bit of new China in the last 6 months. We don't know. China is an extremely difficult country to read and to interpret. We don't know. China can say left, we are turning left, and they may turn right. So we don't know. But what we have seen the last 6 months,
you know them for 10,000 years. Let's just finish up putting you on the spot for your outlook for oil prices, where you think the sort of big picture oil demand supply balance goes in this year.
Well, my own sense is that it will depend, of course, whether Trump is going to walk the talk in terms of, drill, baby, drill, number one. Number two, what happens to the private climate deal. And more importantly, what happens on Ukraine. It all depends on all that. If things go as he has promised, we see some breakthrough over Ukraine, and we see kind of, some policy initiatives for drill, baby, drill, then I think my own sense is we're going to see oil price in the region of $70 to $72 per barrel, let's say the first 6 months. On the average, price may go up to $80 per barrel and come down to $65. But I think if we go by $70 to $72, $73 per barrel Brent, I think probably that will be safer. That's my own sense. But as I said, if Trump walks the talk, that's the most important thing.
What is your do you expect OPEC Plus to keep the current cuts through the end of the year?
I think OPEC is going to struggle. And OPEC is an experienced organization, but they're going to struggle in the sense that, dealing with Trump 2.0, with his kind of agenda, many countries are going to struggle. We have already seen Greenland, we have seen Denmark, we have seen Canada, and I think OPEC is going to be more or less in the same basket, struggle.
Well, we're going to wrap it up there with OPEC plus struggle and the answers in this survey question. What's at stake for India's energy security in 25? One, mitigating geopolitics, splitting the vote with capitalizing on lower oil prices. Narendra Taneja, India's leading energy expert and a regular commentator on the Daily Energy Markets podcast. You have to add that to one of your job titles. Thank you so much, Narendra. Really great to have your insights